Sandeep. Glad to be here in the valedictory session itself. I begin, I would like to welcome all our guests. So that is Shri Hardeep Singh Puri, Ji, Honorable Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, Civil Aviation and Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Ambassador Shri C. Raj Shekhar Ji, IFS, OSD States, Ministry of External Affairs in the Government of India. And my colleagues, of course, Kumara Guru and Sandeep, who are in charge of the show here, and all the other colleagues and friends and those sitting in the audience. Right? So first and foremost, on behalf of everyone at the Indian School of Business, let me begin by wishing you all a very happy Diwali. And of course, I also want to join in welcoming you to this valedictory session of the third edition of Deccan Dialogues. Now, as this third edition comes to a closure, I would like to take this opportunity to remind us about this whole idea of promoting exchange of ideas between policymakers, business leaders, academics, and society at large itself, right? And the roles that institutions like ISB play in this space, and in particular platforms such as this, the Deccan Dialogues, which provide an excellent opportunity for us to reflect upon and learn from our past achievements, but also to facilitate, ideas and about thought leadership and how do you form policy and how do you, inform policy and take it through into the future itself, right? So I do want to, commend the organizing committee for, bringing us all together in order to, and on this platform in order to exchange these ideas. Now, let me take a brief moment and talk a little bit about, our journey at ISB, which I believe in itself is an excellent example of visionary entrepreneurs, academics, and business leaders coming together to build this, research-driven management education institution in India. And I mean, just to kind of reiterate what our late Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji said, referring to ISB as the Rashtra Dakshina by the Indian industry, right? I mean, nothing is truer than what he actually said, because this was a combined effort of so many folks coming in together in order to form this institution. But today, if I look at ISB, ISB is transforming from being just an entrepreneurial idea into becoming a premier management research institution in this country. And in the short span of 2 decades, ISB has made a name for itself in management education globally, right? And that I think is an incredible feat to achieve in such a short span of time. And today our programs, all of them rank amongst the best globally, while we still await for accreditation and recognition from Indian institutions, right? We're still, trying to work our way through the system. We've already achieved accreditation from global bodies, so which is, a lot to say for a young institution like ours. And we do hope that, in the near future, we will be able to do the same with our Indian counterparts, right? But that's all about our teaching and what, and management education itself. But what I think is relatively, unknown up until now, and which is now beginning to become much more visible, is our research output, right? And our ability to actually build management research in this part of the world. And ISB's faculty, I mean, just as a case in point, routinely engages with state and central government agencies, policymakers, business houses, not-for-profit organizations on very high impact projects, right? And such work has steadily increased over the years, and we are glad that we are contributing in very significant ways both to the local, national, and global economy, both through the work that we do, the thought leadership that we bring to bear, and then and do this in a very rigorous way. As with any academic institution that prides itself with a research-driven faculty, our faculty are encouraged to publish their work in some of the top academic outlets globally, and our faculty do that fairly routinely. And we probably are the only management institution in the country that rank globally for research particularly management research, in rankings that matter to us, right, as academics, because we are very focused on top quality outlets, and ISB definitely is one of the few management institutions that has, very routinely had its faculty publishing those journals. Now, why do I say this, right, and why does this matter, right? So ISB, as an example, right, I mean, thus far points to two very crucial issues in my mind. One, it's a beacon of an entrepreneurial effort coming to fruition, and I think it's a great example that encourages entrepreneurship in our country, particularly in the education space itself, right? And the second thing that I think which comes to mind once you start looking at ISB and the kind of work that is getting done over here is the ability for ISB to connect with policymakers, with businesses in the country, outside the country, with government agencies and society at large, right? In order to bring in research-driven thought into and management practices that are of global standards, right? And I think that is what is going to eventually make ISB the place to go for thought leadership, for management research, and also will provide ISB the opportunity to consolidate its position as the institute of eminence in management research and education, right? And we've worked very hard over the years, to try to get to this place, and a lot still needs to be done. But I think there are great opportunities ahead of us in order to consolidate on these two positions. And why does research matter, right? And I mean, why does thought leadership matter? Because one thing, and particularly in this day and age, right, where data analytics, your ability to look at information and start gleaning insights from the data and information that are presented to you, I think that's what is necessary in order to start making informed policy decisions, right? And I believe that bringing in that academic rigor in terms of thought, bringing in the insights from practitioners and policymakers who are out there doing the things on a day-to-day basis, it's an amalgamation of all of these that is then going to produce output for everyone, right? I mean, for policymakers, for businesses, for society at large, as well as academics, as we improve the things that we work on and the stuff that we teach in our classrooms, right? And I believe that this symbiotic relationship that we are trying to foster needs to be strengthened, right? And just to kind of elaborate on this idea and maybe give a little more of a concrete example, right? I mean, and since Shri Hardeep Singh Puri ji is here with us, I mean, think of a scheme like the Udan Scheme, right, which is in the Ministry of Civil Aviation's incredible project for trying to improve regional air connectivity in the country. And if you talk to folks, and if you try to understand how they went about creating this kind of a policy for the country, right? I think an incredible statement that was made by the Minister of State for Civil Aviation when we were talking to him. This was Mr. Jayant Sinha, right? He said that, see, we are in the process of trying to make policy that will enable markets in this country, right? And I think that was a very thought-provoking statement, because how does one go about making these kinds of policy decisions that then enable businesses to come in, and in this case airline businesses to come in, and yet have market forces work for you, right? Because you don't want to just create a simple subsidy and say, hey, what, we are just going to help the airlines pick up these markets. No, you want to create and think through how will you get them to participate in such a scheme? How will you get the airlines to participate in such a scheme and do it willingly, and yet make it a self-sustaining business in the long run, right? And while I personally wasn't involved, in the development of the scheme directly, and though I've been reading about it and trying to study it, I have been very recently involved in writing up an assessment report about the scheme with officials from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, in particular the Joint Secretary Susha Padi, right over there, and some of my colleagues here at ISB. And I think that kind of a collaboration which comes to bear, right, because of we being in academia, trying to look at things from a more rigorous perspective, yet validating some of the thought processes that policymakers are involved in. I think is a nice example of how such a symbiotic relationship can actually flourish in this country, and we can get outcomes that are really desirable for our economy, right? I mean, there are many more examples, some that I've been involved at ISB, some, my colleagues have been involved. And I hope, during the health session, you might have heard some of my colleagues talk about, some of the initiatives that they are involved in particular, during the COVID-19 times. But I mean, that's what, I think ISB and fora like these, will foster. And I hope that this continues into the future, right? Now, finally, I would like to mention, on a slightly orthogonal issue, that it's not just about research and engaging. I mean, in particular, if I look at, the kind of audience we have today, largely from the diplomatic community, right? It's also for us to learn from policymakers and diplomats like yourself, right? And this is, really enhancing our skills and our pedagogical tools and the materials that we bring in class, and training the next set of students who eventually will find their way into these positions within government or society. Right? And one such example, that comes to mind is. Think of how does one improve communication and negotiation skills, right, which are very crucial to the kinds of jobs that you all are involved in. And to me, but that's not just restricted to your domain, because I think these skills are very essential for business leaders and other members of society too. And I think learning from your experiences and bringing that learning into the class, and be it through simple by getting you as guest lecturers, or getting you to come and talk to our students, or even working with you, writing case studies about this, creating pedagogical material for our classrooms, can be a great way of, for schools like us, as well as our students, to learn, right? And I'm pretty sure, this would also be enriching for you, because you will get to interact with, young minds and young folks who probably think very differently about similar issues. And I can almost see that, if we can leverage this capability and, build these closer relationships, this can only help the education and our classrooms going forward, right? So personally, I find these kinds of fora very enriching, ways for us to communicate our ideas, to listen to what you have, the people in the government, in public policy, in the diplomatic circles, things that you work on and understand from your experiences. And once again, right, I mean, I think these kinds of workshops like the one that we are doing today, the Deccan Dialogues, are ways of interacting and bringing all of us together on one common platform, both to discuss, debate, and educate us on issues of immense importance to the nation. So thank you for the organizing committee for making this happen, and thank you to all of you who participated in this in these sessions here at Deccan Dialogues. And I wish you all the very best, and I hope to listen to the Honorable Minister and the Ambassador.